Hi guys, it's Krishanti here with Krishanti.com, and every week I bring you new videos about psychic development and spiritual and personal growth. So if you're into this whole world, please come over and join us and subscribe, because I do new videos every week and I would love to see you here. And this week is a topic near and dear to my heart, which is about psychic work and the best way to approach it. So I learned how to be psychic. I learned how to really activate my intuition quite a while ago now. And I train people one-on-one in opening up their intuition. And I teach them how to do readings. And something that's really interesting that comes up that I think all of us who are in this world, those of us who are just dabbling or who like to get readings or who want to learn how to do it, maybe do it professionally, I think it's important for us to really consider and think about the fact that for psychic work to be truly amazing, it's better for us to expect the unexpected. We are so trained from an early age to think rationally and sensibly, and 1 + 1 has to be 2, and you have to figure out the source of something. We have to solve the problems. We have to know what the mysteries are. But that makes the psychic work, like taking that approach to this intuitive realm, makes it so much less fun. And I've seen it time and time again. People come for readings only wanting to know about practical stuff. Okay, look, I get it. That makes sense. It's like this life thing. If there are tools we have, by all means, like, let's use them to figure this out and make the right choices and the best decisions. But that's capping it and placing such a limitation on where it can go and what we can learn. I mean, try telling someone in a reading that the guy she's crazily super crushing on is totally not into her, right? And she's going to be pissed and hate psychic stuff and hate the reading. And you know what I mean? Like, we try to move things in a better direction, like a healthier, more proactive way. Like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't just say he hates you and that's that. It's never like that. But what I'm trying to say by that example is many of us take this beautiful, limitless world and compact it into, like, why isn't he texting me back? Or when am I going to get a job? Or, you know, these things that are kind of, they're not really mundane because it's real life. But if we can just crack open a little bit and think, even think outside the box, like when you're in the mode with someone who's upset because someone doesn't like them, to think, well, could you possibly think that there's somebody so much better, and this person that you like isn't even who you think they are, and you just created this idea of the person, and you would be so miserable. Like, think about that. I mean, that's just one idea, but I always think about this because there's so much we can learn about so many different things. I mean, it's I don't know how to explain it. I'm speechless. Here I am, speechless. I mean, even just the nature of reality, or out there kinds of concepts, or different ways of doing things. A huge, very, very common thing that I tell all of my students to be aware of is that you can reveal something to someone in a reading, and it may not make sense to them at that time. It may not make sense to them 2 or 3 weeks later, maybe even 6 months down the line, but at some point, something might click and they'll just be like, oh my God, I had no idea. That makes sense. And they won't tell you, but you need to know that things you're getting in the reading, you're getting for a reason. A perfect example of this is one of my psychic students who is so fun to work with, profound, so much energy he could tap into. He's so incredible. And he was doing a reading for somebody, practice reading, and he just said, look, I don't know what this means. And that's the other thing. We don't always know what this stuff means, and we have to embrace that. He's like, look, I don't know what this means, but I see old hands knitting. And I'm getting goosebumps. And he saw a hummingbird. And she's like, okay, cool. Like, you know, you want to go with the flow and be open and take notes, like, especially those random things, like, you know, okay. So a week later, she's telling her sister, and her sister's like, that's Grandma Dolly, who died. I think she was 100. She passed away. And we told the student, he was amazed. Then she told her mom, and her mom just burst into tears, like so moved by those pictures, because the hummingbird had symbolism, the knitting, everything. It was like so profound. So at that moment, she's like, okay, cool, old hands knitting. I like old people. She likes to work with old people. But no, I mean, we get this like incredible feedback later on. And that's how it works at best. It's I don't know. Another thing that happened to me recently that I want to share because it was so cool is I had the privilege of working with someone in a session where she was happy. She's like, I'm so relieved because in this session, I'm just going to ask about the animals on my property and the flora and fauna on her property all around her. So she asked if one of her horses, and she's a beautiful soul, you guys, like a gentle, beautiful nature soul. And she'd asked if one of her childhood horses was in heaven or had reincarnated. She asked about 2 horses, and it was interesting. This was like permission to go there, to go to the out there-ness that the psychic work can bring. One of the horses had reincarnated and was having a lovely, privileged life here on earth, and she had suffered greatly. So it was so nice to have this beautiful, pampered life, and she was so happy. She was very intent on showing us her hooves and how well cared for they were. And the other horse did not reincarnate, and she was in this beautiful place filled with light, learning and growing, nothing to do with humanity, onto other things, bigger and better things. And in the person in the reading gasped, and she said, oh my God, I took an animal communications course years ago, asked the teacher about this horse, and she said the same thing. She said it was horse heaven. And that's where she was. And we were just both blown away by the synchronicity and the awesomeness of that. But that only happened because she was asking exploratory questions. She asked about where trees go. She said, is there a tree heaven? Do trees die? And I thought, well, that's such an amazing and cool question. And the answer that came through was that the trees actually belong to the earth. And it's like, well, what, when the earth dies, does she go to heaven? Like, well, no, the earth is this force all on her own, this incredible, like a goddess, like a being. And the trees go back into the earth. They're a part of the consciousness of the earth. And the trees are very adamant. They're like, look, when you guys aren't here, we will be here. Which was reassuring to both of us because we love the earth, we love trees and nature. And, you know, for all of us who are concerned with humans destroying the planet has news for us, which is, I will go on. So even without us here, the planet will survive and thrive again, which is it's very reassuring. But it's these incredible things that happen if you give them permission to, if you listen and say, okay, this job is not for me. That's a real bummer. I really needed this job. Damn it, I wanted this job. Then you find out, well, okay, but maybe that's not the right path. Maybe the path is something completely different that you never would have thought of, but because you're open and you're receptive, you're guided in a completely wonderful, wonderful, different direction. And I need to remind myself that too with my channeling. I'm just as bad as everybody else asking questions about everyday life and needing help and all that. I mean, we're humans having a human experience. But there are times when I don't have any questions and I just sit and this profound wave of information comes through that is just mind-blowing. I can't even with how incredible it is, and beautiful angels and light beings, and it's out of this world. I wouldn't trade that for anything. And it's one of the greatest blessings I think ever. So if you're interested in learning more about all of this stuff, give yourself time to meditate, to go within. And if you're getting readings, be open to maybe a different way of thinking or a different type of information coming through. And if you're wanting to learn about all this stuff, I have a lot of free resources and a lot of paid ones too, but they're good training materials and everything at krishanti.com. I have a great free starter meditation called Grounding and Centering and Running Your Own Energy. If you sign up to my mailing list, you'll get a free workshop right off the bat. But I've got a lot of resources I've created over the years, a lot of really cool meditations and workshops and trainings and stuff. But I would like to hear, before I go, your experiences about this. Like, have you had incredible insights in readings, or have you, your own intuition, have you gotten things that you're like, wait, what is that? It doesn't make sense, but then it makes more sense than you could ever have imagined. As I say in other videos, the more of us that talk about this stuff, the more we bring it to light and we share our experiences, the better, because we're all moving into this intuitive way of living. It's really cool. It's just the next level, I feel, of our own development as a species. So on that note, thanks so much for being here today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.